Hello and welcome back to Star Wars The Living Set. Will, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Awesome. Back again with 4 more cards. Very excited to bring you these 4. You know, each week we have different cards that we're like, sometimes it's like super exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We got 4 great cards this time, so I'm really excited about it.
We have 4 pretty good cards. I mean, they're not like top-notch characters, but they're very good. Like,
they're very good.
They're not the child level good characters, but they're pretty close.
There's only one the child. All right, let's get it started off. So card number 59 this week is actually Supreme Leader Snoke.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your first thoughts when you saw Supreme Leader Snoke?
I remember that everybody was kind of confused at first because me not being younger then thought that Snoke was that humongous because the only time we see him in The Force Awakens is like when he's in the big hologram, but it looks real. Yeah. So at first I was like, wow, that guy is big.
He is big.
So that was my first impression.
He's supposed to be 7 feet tall, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's very tall.
Okay.
And then when we actually saw him, like, quote unquote, in person, he was still, he's very tall. Yep. He's much larger than a human. Yep. But my initial thought was, who is this guy? Yeah. Because, like, there are so many possibilities that everybody was thinking about. They were like, who is this? How did he come to power? What? So at first I thought he was going to be like Darth Vader or something because he had like the head wound that like Annakin has at the end of Empire Strikes Back. Yep. Then I thought it could be like Darth Sidious, aka the Emperor, until we realized that it was kind of the Emperor, but he created Snoke and was kind of like a clone, I think, of him or something like that, like a failed experiment.
He was a failed clone of his. Yeah.
So that was my first initial thought. Such a cool character. Yeah, just great.
Lots going on there with Snoke. So let's get into some of the stats real quick. So they made 942 of this one. 38 have been graded by PSA. 30 PSA 10 so far, and 8 PSA 9. So some interesting things about Supreme Leader Snoke. 100% CGI, right? All of it done by CGI. The interesting part, the actor, and of course the voice is Andy Serkis.
No idea who that is.
Not circus as in where you go see elephants, but circus spelled differently.
Oh, that Andy Serkis.
Andy he plays Gollum in Lord of the Rings. He also comes back again in Andor as Kino Lay. He's actually the head guy who runs the entire prison ward area. He's like the main guy he's like the older guy there. And we're gonna
it's the same guy.
Same guy, and we're gonna put a picture here so you guys can check that one out. And he also plays Ulysses Claw in the Marvel universe.
I didn't know that one.
Pretty cool. So some interesting things from Andy. You know, he said this is the first time he's ever been on set where he had no idea what the character was going to look like when he actually played it, which was interesting.
Because he was just in like this whole entire bodysuit with all these green dots. He was like,
and we're going to put a picture of that there for you guys as well. So very interesting when they talked about the creation of Snoke. They wanted to be different from Palpatine, even though he was a failed clone. Mm-hmm. He also has a gold ring on his finger.
He does, yeah.
And it's interesting because that's apparently some obsidian from Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar.
Is it really?
It's on the internet, so it must be true. I have no idea.
Later, we need to go back and watch that. Remind me.
We can definitely check it out. But again, really cool character. Very interesting. Didn't last very long. There's a lot of controversy, like Will said, around who it could be. Didn't make it very long. No. But definitely cool when you take a think about Andy Serkis playing that person as well. So again, a very cool card.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to you next with card number 60, Plo Koon. So tell us about Plo.
So Plo Koon is not super well known until he was very well known when the Clone Wars came out and all that stuff with Ahsoka and everything. So first we're going to stats. This is card number 60, Plo Koon from Revenge of the Sith. They made 887, 45 have been graded, 6 PSA 9s and 38 PSA 10s. The actor is Alan Rusko.
Yep, and that's one from the original Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, so this is Revenge of the Sith, not the Clone Wars version of Plo Koon.
Yeah, because we see him shortly in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
He was also supposed to play Bib Fortuna and
another guy.
Another guy, we can't pronounce the name.
Yeah.
But both those scenes were actually cut from the movie.
Yep.
So this is actually interesting. The voice who played Plo Koon in the Clone Wars show is James Arnold Taylor. Yep. Who also played Obi-Wan.
Yeah, he did the voice for both of them, didn't he?
Which I think is super interesting.
Super cool, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of backstory. Now we're gonna go into more backstory. He's a Keldar Jedi Master. He wore the breath mask to match his home planet of Doran. Yep. He had the goggles to protect his eye fluids from evaporating. He was killed in the Battle of Kate Nemodia.
Yep.
I think during Order 66.
And that's where we see him in Revenge of the Sith, right? Mm-hmm. So he's flying through these different, like, different buildings, and then all of a sudden, we don't really see him very much.
No.
And then all of a sudden, that's when Order 66 happens. Spoiler alert. And then that's when they all fall behind, and that's when they end up shooting him down, right?
The only time we actually see him in otherwise, which I just now remembered, is in Attack of the Clones.
Correct.
When all the Jedi are, like, quote-unquote captured, he's one of the ones that, like, walks into the circle. That's the only other time we see him, I think.
That is correct. Yep, you're right.
So, yeah, the main part that he got very well known for was he was actually the one who found Ahsoka Tano on Togruta.
Yep, when she was 3 years old.
Yes. So
which is pretty cool.
A little backstory that you didn't write down. Some things about Ahsoka Tano when she was younger. She was a false Jedi came to try and enslave her, but Ahsoka then knew that he was a false Jedi, then contacted the Jedi Order, and Plo Koon came. He was very kind, very noble and nice, and that's why Plo Koon and Ahsoka have such a good connection in Clone Wars.
That's awesome.
And also in Mando.
He's not in Mando.
He's not in Mando.
Okay.
But he's quote unquote in Mando, not really.
Okay.
So when Luke came for Baby Yoda,
spoiler alert,
or quote unquote the child or Grogu, whatever you want to call him, they originally, like, quote unquote leaked, saying it was going to be Plo Koon, because they didn't want people to know it was Luke Skywalker.
And not only if you're people, but they actually in, like, all of the even internal materials.
They all had, like, the name or whatever, like the file or whatever, as Plo Koon.
Yep.
So then people would think it was Plo Koon coming, and not Luke Skywalker. Honestly, I would have liked Plo Koon better.
Would have been cool, and we're actually going to put a video in the description this week where they actually talk about what they did for that and kind of how they brought Luke back. And we also have a good picture of allegedly Plo being there, which is pretty cool. So I've gotten to know Plo a lot more, obviously, through Clone Wars. Now that we watched that together, but from a guy who was just kind of there during the movies to then being a huge part of Clone Wars, I've come to appreciate him a lot.
He's a great character. There also is some theorizing about what would happen if he didn't die. Okay. And then he and Obi-Wan both went together to fight Annakin in Revenge of the Sith. Because, little fun fact, and we're going to end Plo Koon soon hereafter, he actually also has a form of Force lightning. Okay. But different than the others. Instead of, like, blue energy, it's actually yellow.
Okay. The other interesting thing around Star Wars, the Plo Koon card, is that it's only 887 of these that were printed.
Which is the lowest we have seen so far.
So far, yes. There's other that are less. And so the Plo Koon cards are actually pretty rare.
Yeah.
When they're sold on eBay or other sites, they're usually a bit more expensive. They're one of the more expensive cards.
Because they didn't make as many.
They didn't make as many. He became a pretty popular character.
Yeah.
So pretty cool on that part as well. All right, anything else on Plo Koon?
Great character, love him.
All right, card number 61, Greedo. Right, so we're going back to A New Hope. We're going back to the first time we see Greedo, of course, is in the cantina.
First time and last time.
First time and last time in that movie, of course. Yeah, let's do some stats real quick here. So they've made 1,178 of that one. There's 55 of them have been graded by PSA, 38 PSA 10s, and then 16 PSA 9s. So the interesting thing here with Greedo is the actor is a guy named Paul Blake. Do you know how he got the job? So Paul Blake was actually a friend of Anthony Davis, who's actually C-3PO. Anthony Daniels, C-3PO. And so Anthony's recommended to Lucas, said, hey, I got a buddy. They're looking for extras to be in the cantina. And so his buddy comes down, and that's how he became Greedo.
So C-3PO's friend was basically, or no, C-3PO, wait, what was his name?
Anthony Daniels.
Anthony Daniels was basically like, hey, I have this friend. He's cool. He should be in the movie.
That's exactly what happened, yes. Pretty crazy.
That's funny.
His full name is Greedo Tetsu Jr.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting. We also see young Greedo in episode 1.
Really?
Right? When Anakin is younger, when he's pod racing, there's the small roadie in there.
Oh, there is?
That's supposed to be Greedo as well.
Really?
Yeah, which is interesting. So the interesting thing about Greedo, of course, probably one of the most controversial scenes ever in Star Wars.
Who shot first?
Who shot first is exactly right. So in 1977, Han shot first. Then in 1997, during the special edition, Greedo shoots first, but apparently misses. Then in 2004, when they re-released the DVDs, they fired at the same time, and somehow Han Solo dodges, even though they're like 2 feet apart.
Yeah, less than.
And then in 2019, when Disney Plus released it, which is what's on Disney Plus right now, all that build up, Greedo then says something, and then they shoot at the same time. Han again dodges and shoots him.
I don't think he actually dodged it. I think Greedo is just...
He does move a little bit.
He moves a little bit.
It's very interesting. So, again, Greedo, a very simple character who became very controversial because of all the stuff with Han. So, again, depending on which version, if you got the old version on a VHS, if you've got it on a Laserdisc, if you've got it on a DVD, whatever you have to have it on, you might see 4 different versions of that scene with Greedo, which is pretty interesting.
I remember having a whole entire talk about it one year in school.
Yep.
Because I had a big Star Wars.
Who shot first, right?
And we literally talked for like the whole entire hour about just who shot first.
Yep, exactly right. All right, we got one more card to go in a couple minutes here. Card number 62, young Annakin from The Phantom Menace. Tell us about that one, Will.
So this is the only time we see young Annakin besides Obi-Wan, but that's a different guy, obviously. So this one, we're going to stats, number 62. They made 1,207, 71 have been graded, 22 9s, 49 10s. The actor is Jake Lloyd.
Yep, so he was in ER, a TV show. He was the kid in Jingle All the Way, and then that's how he got the part playing young Anakin.
Okay, and also he retired in 2001 after bullying and harassment.
Yeah, very sad story. So you think about, this was the first Star Wars movie that had come out in over 30 years.
Yeah.
And here's this kid, he's a kid, playing Anakin, who of course then becomes Darth Vader, spoiler alert. And people just didn't leave him alone. Like, this is before online, but people just were not nice to him, and it's just really unfortunate because he had a pretty rough life. He's now since retired from acting.
That's really sad.
But one of the greatest lines from that movie is where I believe it's Qui-Gon says, "Who is his father?"
There was no father.
There was no father is what Shmi answers exactly right.
So he was originally owned by Gordula.
Gardula the Hutt.
Gardula the Hutt, and Gardula then lost both Shmi and Anakin to Watto in a bet.
Yep, you're right.
He built C-3PO. He was age 9 when he met Qui-Gon.
Yep.
Brought Padme, Jar Jar, and Qui-Gon to his home at 9 years old. Which
seems a little weird, right?
It does seem weird, yeah.
Imagine you're a 9-year-old and then you're living on Tatooine or wherever you're living, and then you get home and you say, "Hi, Mom," and all of a sudden, it's not just you, but there's
an old guy,
this teenage girl, this old guy, and a Gungan that you've probably never seen before.
No. So that part was a wee bit weird.
And then he says, "Hey, Padme, why don't you come to my room and I'm going to show you the droid that I built."
A 9-year-old talking to like a 16-year-old.
Seems a bit weird, but that's okay.
That part is...
It happened a long time ago in a galaxy far away. It's probably okay. Okay.
He then also ran to the ship with Qui-Gon, and that was actually the first time we actually saw Darth Maul, like, fighting.
Yeah, I think Qui-Gon yells him to get down, and he dives, and then of course Darth Maul does this cool flip thing, and that's when they start fighting, which was pretty cool. Yep.
So yeah, he also gives a necklace to Padme, which we then see multiple times again, especially after Padme dies.
Yeah.
When it's like her burial coffin.
Yeah.
Thing, like floating past, we can see it resting.
Yeah, it's on her hand. So we're gonna put a picture of that today as well, so you guys can check that one out. So, all right, very quickly, what is your favorite card of this week, artist wise?
I'm gonna say Snoke.
Snoke is definitely a good one. I'm gonna go Plo Koon. I think Plo is just really cool. I come to really appreciate that character. Snoke is a close second, but I really like the Plo Koon one this week.
Yeah.
Anything else you got for this week for us?
Nope.
All right. Thanks again, guys, for watching. We appreciate it. Let us know if you have any comments or suggestions or any feedback for us. Otherwise, if you're interested in the Star Wars Living Set, 2 cards every single week on Topps.com. Again, as always, shout out to Kris Penix, who's still doing all of these cards. Later, we'll get to adding another artist, but for now, he's doing every single one of these, an amazing job. So thanks again, guys. We'll talk to you guys soon.